Now it's time for Toker Talk Radio, the voice of the marijuana nation.
What are you people? On dope?
Where you can toke.
I inhale frequently.
Or you can talk.
I experimented with marijuana and didn't inhale.
Or you can toke and talk.
10 federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
While we talk about toke on Toker Talk Radio.
So, by the way, when it comes to pot, if you're 40 years old, you live in a log cabin in Oregon, you got 12 giant pot plants in your backyard, have a ball.
Live from beautiful Portland, Oregon at Rolla J Studios.
Hey, this is great. Just like cannabis.
Plus your calls live at 971-533-7111.
They're walking on their pants with their cap on backwards, listening to Enema Man and Snoopy Poop Dog.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel? Gateway theory doesn't work. It's a reality.
Holland, is it real? Don't tease me.
We're locking up people that take a couple of puffs of marijuana, and the next thing you know, they got 10 years.
And now, here's your host, the guru of ganja graphics, the sultan of sativa statistics, and the worst nightmare of a reefer mad prohibitionist. A polite, perspicacious, productive pothead with a propensity for PowerPoint. Radical Russ Belville.
All right, which one was that?
We've done that one a couple times. It was the, is it Galaga?
Oh, no.
No, it was the...
Nope, sorry, not Galaga.
No, it was, the... Ziggies? No, I don't know.
No, it's not Ziggies, no.
Okay.
It was one with, is that trippy one with the 2 joysticks?
Oh, Tempest.
No, not Tempest. 2 joysticks. You could, the one joystick to move your character, the other one to fire in a different direction.
Oh, Tron?
Close?
No.
Robotron.
Robotron.
Remember, you could spin his arm and you're running around.
Yeah.
I was never good at it.
I never got a chance to play that one much.
Did not do that one? All right. Hey, we have a new toy here in Rolla J Studios. I have to back up so you can see it all. Now, no, it's just a glass bong, but I have swaddled it in green bubble wrap.
He has 420 radio studioized it.
Yes, and I've added a bumper on the top, so if it does fall over, it won't break, hopefully.
Well, yeah.
But anyway, we got this at Mellow Mood today, thus the Mellow Mood sticker. And we have to have a name for it. Maybe we should have a naming contest on the show.
Oh, and we could give away another High Times for the
Something
winner.
like that. So far, my preliminary name is Mjolnir.
Nice. I like it.
I think it works. It's got a 4 perk.
3, 4. Well, it'd be 5.
5 if you count the down stem. So a 5 perk. And what are we smoking on today? We got, okay, folks, here's the menu today. We got an 1/8 of Jilly Bean, which I've already ground up.
Which I don't think is really Jilly
He
Bean.
doesn't think it's Jilly Bean. An 1/8 of Cindy 99.
Mm-hmm.
An 1/8 of White Widow. And an 1/8 of Headband.
Ooh, Headband. Haven't had that in a while.
So we got, smoke on that. So we got a 1/2 ounce of weed in 4 different 1/8s of top shelf variety. How much do you think it cost? $100. Yeah. 25 1/8. So there you go. That's your Oregon price list for today. We're liking it. We're digging it. Pretty nice. All right. So continuing along, I did the King Bong. Trickster Phillips says King Bong would be good.
Meh.
That'd be great. But we are. I've been going on these rants on Facebook and on Twitter. On Facebook, I said that I was going to start writing to piss people off so they'll unfriend me so I can add new friends. And in a sense, it'll be kind of an ideological natural selection.
Yeah, that's totally understandable.
And here's the other thing, right? It's like, I write snarkily, I guess. But snark. Not snark, no. I write snarkily, I guess, right? But it really pisses some people off when I call things bullshit, or when I slaughter sacred cows.
You hang a light on it. You put the...
And, just have a debate, man. You don't have to hate, just debate. My mind can be changed. Really, I'm not a rigid ideologue by any means. I used to be a Reagan Republican when I was a youngster.
I've watched him change his mind on several issues over the last few years. So.
The one I always point to that was a big evolution for me was hate crime laws. I used to always hate crime laws. That's stupid. All crime is hate. What? It's a different hate if it's a black person and a white person? I had all the lines, right? Until I started talking to some gay and lesbian advocates, activists, who kind of explained to me how a hate crime is actually terrorism. It's not a crime against one person. It's a crime against a class of people. Through terror and intimidation. And that kind of started to bring me around on the issue. And now I'm fairly supportive of hate crime laws. Gun laws? I've been all over the map on gun laws.
And he'll bounce
over the map. Here's my thing on guns. I'm all for me having them. I'm pretty cool with Brian having them. I'm pretty cool with almost everyone I know having them. I'm not so sure about you. Not you, listener. That other guy.
But yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, I don't have a problem with guns at all. I grew up around guns. I grew up with hunting families. I was in the military. I like firing them for fun. They're lots of fun. I got no problem with them. I have a problem with maniacs who keep using them to shoot people in malls and schools and theaters. That's my issue.
and the relative ease of accessibility that they seem to have in acquiring these objects of destruction.
How can we make it so that you and me can get all the guns we want, but the crazy people can't? That's all I want to know. That's all I'm looking for. I'm looking for solutions.
IQ test?
I don't know. No,
because a lot of smart people do turn sociopathic.
Yeah, I think it might even be a higher percentage. You never know. I can't take this world anymore. It's too illogical.
That's true. Throughout history, people who later were found to be geniuses were deemed to be quite crazy at the time.
That's right. All right, hey, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk more about CCHI, ballot initiatives, woo-woo, and all that.
It's simply business. It's simply business. It's simply business. You know why they won't let us grow. It's simply business.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
It's simply business. It's simply business. It's simply business. You know why they won't let us grow. It's simply business. It's simply business. You know why they won't let us grow. It's simply business.
Cannabis Outreach Collective is an alternative health and wellness option located in Gladstone, Oregon, that serves patients in the Portland area and beyond. We are a full-service alternative health and wellness collective accommodating patients with natural, organic, holistic, and homeopathic remedies, nutritional guidance, advice, education, and medical cannabis, fully in accordance with Oregon OMMP law. You can find out more about Cannabis Outreach Collective on Facebook at COC503 or by emailing cannabisoutreachcollective503@gmail.com or by telephone at 503-853-1319. Check out our menu on Weed Maps and visit Cannabis Outreach Collective today. 420 Radio, freeing your mind 24 hours a day. When you are starting up a medical cannabis business, you don't just want any attorney. You want a fired-up lawyer who understands the needs of cannabis consumers. The Law Office of Lauren Vasquez is your fired-up lawyer for the cannabis industry. Lauren Vasquez knows the details of California marijuana law from both a personal and professional angle. Lauren Vasquez rose from the ranks of college normal activists to become one of the Bay Area's best marijuana lawyers. Visit her website, fireduplawyer.com, or call 1-855-MMJ-LAWS for more information. That's 855-665-5297 for Lauren Vasquez, your Fired Up Lawyer, or email fireduplawyer@gmail.com. The number again is 855-MMJ-LAWS, 855-665-5297 for your Fired Up Lawyer, Lauren Vasquez. Lauren Vasquez is an activist attorney you can trust. Call today.
Yeah. Sup, folks?
Welcome back, everyone. 11 after the hour. That's Iron Mike 206 from the Seattle area with Burn Him Down. So I'm going to give you a little more on my early morning Twitter war. Because it's kind of ranty fodder, but it's good discussion fodder, too, I think. Because, I mean, I want to address some of these things because they seem kind of prevalent amongst some parts of the marijuana community, and it just bothers me. And I want to get to this conspiracy theory thinking, okay? This idea that there's massive conspiracies afoot. As I began poking at the CCHI, I kept asking him, here's when I said, I'd love it if CCHI made the ballot and passed. I'd love it. But it doesn't make the ballot. It's not on the ballot this year. It wasn't on the ballot in 12. Wasn't on the ballot in 10. Wasn't on the ballot in 8. Hasn't Jack Harry been doing some, and his followers been doing some version of this since the 80s? So why doesn't it get on the ballot? Why doesn't it get any money? Why doesn't it get any national support? Well, here's the theory. The theory, of course, is that it's Ethan Nadelman and the Drug Policy Alliance and their corporate overlords that want to make sure marijuana is corporately controlled. According to the Youth Fed, who tweeted me back, we got national support and the media loved us. It was the dickheads Ethan Nadelman that helped fuck us up. Maybe the pot movement is taken over by Ethan Nadelman, who wants to legalize meth, crack, coke, and heroin. It's like, geez, that's a line right out of Kevin Sabet right there. Denigrating Ethan because he wants to make sure that no drug user is treated like a criminal. I see. All right. So this went on for a while, and we kept chatting this up. And, you know, this is the thing. Is okay, so it had national support and the media loved it. So why did not that translate into money and support and signatures and getting on the ballot? It can't be that this one guy came in and ruined it for you, right? Because the other thing they went and told me is that they had gathered 250 to 300,000 signatures with just all volunteers and spent only $10,000. That's pretty amazing. That's really amazing. I'm not saying they didn't. That could be absolutely true. So what I want to know is, if it only took you 10,000 to get 250,000, you need 500,000 signatures. You probably need 750,000, 750,000 to really, because a lot of them will be invalidated, right? So you only needed another 20,000, right? So 10,000 got you to 250,000, then another 20,000 ought to get you the other 500,000, right? So really, you were just $20,000 out of putting this on the ballot. But when Ethan Nadelman DPA put something on the petitions to gather or to get titles or whatever, you couldn't raise the $20,000. Okay. So I'm now supposed to get behind a group proposing legalization that I'd really like, but can't get over a $20,000 hurdle if someone is running a competing initiative. So, you're not making the case for me to want to support this more. That's what I'm trying to point out here. And I kind of called them on the what's this with demonizing users of other drugs? And, this was part of the conspiracy as well, right? He wants to, supports legalizing all drugs, but not CCHI 2014. And the idea here was that DPA should have come in and seen that they'd already gotten, seen that they'd already gotten 250,000 signatures and funneled his money and support over to it to be able to have professional signature gatherers and put that onto the ballot. That's what Ethan should have done. Now, he should have done this after the numerous times those people in the previous years have said the most evil and vicious things about him. But he, being a professional, can put that aside. And he should have funneled that money to CCHI, gathered all the signatures, got it on the ballot, right? Because, by gosh, it had one poll at 56%. See, here's the thing. I think the major national movements and funders would fund anything that could possibly pass. But this idea that they're engaged in these conspiratorial alliances to make sure that only one set of people benefit and that only the money and that they'll overtax, they're doing the best they can in the political situation that's been set up, some of which has been farked up a little bit by the actions of some of these woo-woo people, right? Would the cops now be proposing this hyper restrictive medical marijuana, doctor recommending, has to everything looked over the shoulder kind of stuff if they didn't get the impression that it was way out of control right now? Right? There's trade-offs here, trade-offs involved. Yeah, we got away with the stuff in Prop 215. We got away with the for any other condition. We got away with, having dispensaries when none of them are really regulated and having, doctors be able to write recommendations from tents after bikini girls spun a sign and got a kid to step in. We got away with that for so many years. I mean, what, you didn't think there was going to be a backlash to that? There wasn't going to be some sort of response to that?
No.
I'm all for pushing boundaries, sure, push the envelope, but to some point, right? Now, I know that California activists have been trying to get something regulated, and, this isn't to disparage everybody involved. There's great people, California Normals working out there, and ASA, and Drug Policy Alliance, a lot of people out there doing good work and negotiating with legislators, working with people like Tom Amiano, who keeps trying to get bills passed, and they don't get them passed. So this isn't a slam on all California activists any more than last weekend's was over all Washington activists. What it is me just calling out this woo-woo, this new agey magical thinking. And maybe partially I'm emboldened here from the new Cosmos series, right? Scientific method, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Carl Sagan, this idea that, what was the quote? I got to find this quote from Sagan that I posted on my Twitter account just the other day, because it totally sums up what I'm thinking about here. And it's going to take me a while to find it. So I'm going to scroll down just a little bit more.
Oh, you and your twits.
I know. I actually like Twitter because it's like a little notepad.
There's a search there on your Twitter. You were talking about searches.
Of my searches? Okay. Thank you.
Search yourself.
Thank you. But that's everybody. That just users me. Let's try that. By Radical Russ. By me. Yeah, baby. Here it is.
Filters. Love them.
Way to go. All right. Carl Sagan quote. For me, it is far better to grasp the universe as it really is than to persist in delusion, however satisfying and reassuring. End quote. And that's how I feel about the marijuana movement now these days. I was part of the woo-woo crowd for a while. I was part of the, it's all a miracle. Hemp will save the planet and cannabis will cure cancer and everybody be happy and all wars will end, right? I was in that too.
A lot of people are that way when they first discover cannabis because they're like, oh, well, all those lies that they told us about the plant must be, all those things that they told us about the plant must be lies.
Yeah.
They believe the exact opposite,
My little quip joke is, oh, you just read Emperor. Yeah. It is a revelation and you learn all these things, but come on, tone it down a little bit. So anyway, you can follow this if you follow me on Twitter. I asked him what corporatized pot was. And he says, corporatized pot is 6 plants, 1 ounce and 25% tax and give the government unlimited power to regulate a harmless plant. Here's where we got part of the problem. See, marijuana, here's a secret. Shh. Marijuana is not a harmless plant. I know. I'm shattering a sacred tenet of some people, but marijuana is not a harmless plant. Marijuana is not tomatoes. Marijuana is not tomatoes. Anything that alters your perceptions and mind is by definition not harmless. Now, less harmful than damn near anything else? Sure, yeah, I got that, but not harmless.
Oh, have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. Have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. If he said he swam to China, he would sell you South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
When you are starting up a medical cannabis business, you don't just want any attorney. You want a fired-up lawyer who understands the needs of cannabis consumers. The law office of Lauren Vasquez is your fired-up lawyer for the cannabis industry. Lauren Vasquez knows the details of California marijuana law from both a personal and professional angle. Lauren Vasquez rose from the ranks of college normal activist to become one of the Bay Area's best marijuana lawyers. Visit her website, fireduplawyer.com, or call 1-855-MMJ-LAWS for more information. That's 855-665-5297 for Lauren Vasquez, your fired-up lawyer, or email fireduplawyer@gmail.com. The number again is 855-MMJ-LAWS, 855-665-5297 for your fired-up lawyer, Lauren Vasquez. Lauren Vasquez is an activist attorney you can trust. Call today.
You know Herb Thrasher from the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour. Now get ready for Herb Age Designs for the proud cannabis consumer. Herb Age Designs, lifestyle gear for the 420 friendly. Herb Age Designs, home of the famous lighter leash. Herb Age Designs. Get your Herb Age t-shirts and hoodies and show your pride. Herb Age Designs. We've got Frisbee golf discs and durable hemp gear. Herb Age Designs. We've got shot glasses, drinking glasses, coffee mugs, and beer cozies. Check us out on Facebook and online at herbagedesigns.com. And follow Herb Age and Herb Thrasher on Twitter. We'll see you at this year's Hemp Fest. Crank it up.
Jorge Cervantes TV with Jorge Cervantes from Barcelona, Spain, every Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, and 1 a.m. GMT, right here on 420radio.org.
My baby loves me when I'm stoned, as long as I find my way home. No, my baby, she don't care about the songs I sing or the clothes I wear. Loves the late night calls on the telephone, and my baby loves me when I'm stoned.
That's music from Jason Boland and the Stragglers with When I'm Stoned. A little country music here on a Tuesday. Coming up later tonight, we will have an edition of the Thrasher Sports Wire. Me and Herb Thrasher will take a look at NFL, free agency, and drafting. Plus, the March Madness is coming up, so we'll be talking about that as well. You know, there's a $1 billion bracket challenge. If you can fill out a perfect 64-team bracket, you win $1 billion. $1 billion with a B.
Holy crap fest.
Of course, the chance of that, the random chance of that is 1 in a quintillion something. There's a better chance you win the megabucks, right? But if you're if you know something about basketball, they say the chances go down to just 1 out of 100 million. So there you go. I think it's worth trying to win $1 billion. Why not, right?
I think that we need to get a team of basketball nerds together and have them, you know, cooperatively predict the brackets.
Yeah.
I think
we try it. I mean, that's the thing, though, is, you know, the person, when they have those Office 64 brackets, the person that wins is usually like the old secretary lady that doesn't know a thing about basketball, picks them by, you know, whether their names sound cool.
Yeah, by superstitions and stuff. You know, it's like, I've got a granddaughter named Zephyr. You know,
exactly.
It's like, you know.
Oh, what good would it do? All right, let's take a look at some data. I'm tired of ranting because, you know, I understand I'm hurting people's feelings, but sometimes, you know, we got to say some of these things. Anyway, let's get off that.
Sometimes you got to put aside your own personal feelings and look at the greater good.
There we go. So I'm just trying to get past that. All right, let's talk about this story coming out of Bloomberg Business Week. More pot, less cocaine.
Happy headline.
Sizing up America's illicit drug market. Because I love data. And the Rand Corporation did a survey, a study on America's drug habit and prepared it for the White House, right? So this is for the Obama administration. Here's some of the stuff they found. First of all, the country spent $109 billion in 2010. So this is data up to 2010. $109 billion in 2010 on marijuana, cocaine, meth, and heroin. And the big caveat on all this is it's extremely rough estimates because, again, it's not like we're taking receipts for meth or nothing, right? Nobody's really accounting for this stuff. So $109 billion, according to Bloomberg, is more than we spend at furniture stores or electronics and appliance retailers annually. Wow. It's more than 1/5 of what we spend eating out each year, and it's 5 times more than what we spend in bars. I thought that was an interesting stat. Now, according to the report, the most of the $109 billion is spent by the majority, or the minority, I should say, of heavy users, those who use more than 21 days a month. That's the old, 80-20 kind of thing. 20% of the people are worth 80% of the consumption and so on. So the report is entitled What America's Users Spend on Illegal Drugs, and there's all sorts of, they got the information here on how they do their surveys and so forth. A lot of this comes from the Arrestee Drug Monitoring, the National Survey on Drug Use and Health, and so on. A lot of different parts here. So as we go through this, they have all of the price per pure gram settings, lots of great information in here. And I will be going over this with a fine-tooth comb when I have a little more time. But the rough stuff off of this, the basics, and now, of course, it's going to lock up on me. Come on now. There we go. So the basics of this is that the dollars that have been spent on drugs throughout the first decade of the 21st century, 2000 through 2010, has remained the same. Now, they adjust it for inflation, right? Because, but whatever. Adjusted for inflation, people are spending the same amount of money on drugs throughout the first decade. However, what they found is that what we're spending it on has changed. Cocaine has gone down. Marijuana has gone up. Hell yeah. Now, meth went way up from 2000 to 2005 and then went way down after that. And heroin has kind of stayed somewhat steady. Although in the past 3 years or so, there's been, an increase in heroin. But again, this report only goes to 2010. So as we look at this, one of the things that we find, and let me just show you some of this. This is the best stat I can give you. In 2000, Americans spent twice as much money on cocaine as marijuana. In 2010, people spend 50% more on marijuana than they do on cocaine. Pretty interesting, right? So it's shifted. And here is a great chart that I can show you that will demonstrate this shift for you. We'll just use drug war data mining because that chart's ready to go. But let me get to this. What America spends on drugs, retail spending, and it's a stacked bar chart, so it's all of the drugs stacked up. So you can see that the overall level, right, still staying right about that overall level. Meth got big in the middle, but got skinnier at the end. Marijuana has grown. Heroin has stayed about the same, and cocaine has gone way down. So there's your look at the different drugs and how much is being spent on them. But it's not just the spending on the drugs. They also show us how many users of drugs. Now this one I find very interesting. Chronic drug users, that would be... Now, by the way, a chronic drug user is someone who uses 4 or more days a month.
Hello.
4 or more days a month. Or as I like to say, the guy who smokes a joint on Saturday night.
Yeah.
What is that bouncy sound, man? That's driving me nuts. Something's touching up against the... Can you hear it?
No.
Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Is that me? God damn, that's bugging me. All right. So, sorry. Anyway, chronic drug users, people that use 4 or more days a month. So your Saturday drug user would count. Here's 2000. There was about 11 million of us pot smokers. And that has gone up now to about 17 million of us pot smokers. So, that's pretty scary. You know why? Because marijuana is a gateway drug that leads straight to the use of other drugs, remember?
Oh, that's why the price and number of people using of those other drugs has gone down, right, Russ?
Right. That's why when we look at meth, heroin, and cocaine users, none of them are above 4 million. There's about 4 million cocaine users less than 4 million cocaine users in 2000, less than 2 million heroin and meth users. And then as we go across to 2010, well, what do you know? There are fewer cocaine users, fewer meth users, and slightly more heroin users.
Oh, but Russ, does that meth line happen to include prescription medication?
No.
Methamphetamines?
Nope, just illegal.
Oh.
Just illegal ones.
Oh, I see.
So for some reason, we increased by 6 million more chronic marijuana users, but we decreased our number of cocaine and meth users. And slight increase in heroin users. What a lousy gateway drug. It's not doing a very good job at the gateway whatsoever.
No, if it were a bouncer, it would be fired.
Yeah, no doubt. Now, so we've looked at how much we're spending, how many people are using. Here are the charts of demand in metric tons. Metric tons of cocaine and heroin. Sorry about the little pin it thing there. Here's the metric tons of cocaine and heroin. Now, the metric tons of cocaine was about 300 pure metric tons. Now, by the way, the pure metric tons means, by purity of the drug, right? So if you got a ton of 50%, that's the same as 2 tons of 25%, right? All right, so it's pure metric tons. So that was around 300 pure metric tons up to maybe 325 in the middle of the decade and is now below 150 metric tons. Demand for cocaine in the United States is down by half.
Plummeted.
Interesting.
In the latter of the 2000s.
In heroin, we're around 22 metric tons, and now we're up at about 24 metric tons. Gone up a little. Just a little. Let's go and see, of course, what happens when we look at these others, meth and marijuana. Now, there's that spike in meth that I told you about, right? So it went sharply up from 20 metric tons, quadrupled to 80 metric tons by 2005. But now it's back down to just 40 metric tons. So it is
settled somewhere in the middle.
Twice as many meth users now as there used to be.
But
and then there's marijuana, or meth use, I should say.
Much
meth
use.
Now, since this is pure metric tons, we could also surmise that perhaps the rise up through 2005 had to do with purity of meth. And then once they started clamping down on some of the meth drugs, the meth precursors, perhaps purity went down, and that led to the same number of seizures, same amount of seizure, but the drug was less pure. Can't tell from this chart. And then there's marijuana. 3,000 metric tons of marijuana is now close to 6,000 metric tons of marijuana. Wow, folks. So consumption of marijuana has gone way up. Consumption of cocaine has gone way down. Very interesting data to take a look at, don't you think?
And it's also interesting to note that the time span there, when the cocaine starts to take a dive, is right after the meth starts to take a massive plummet as well.
Yep. There's a similar. I mean, meth is more of a peak, but
and I think that was right around the time that they had those educational campaigns warning people of the dangers of such hard drugs.
Exactly. So this is information off of Business Week. I'll post the link in the chat room if anybody wants to go take a look at it for themselves. That's available for you right there. All right.
It's just funny to think that, they think we can't learn from the mistakes of the past and other drugs and, alcohol prohibition. And come on. We're big boys now.
Hey, we got to take a break. Come back. We got more from the news. Stick around.
You cut people, you smoke trees till you get what you need now. Designer drugs and minted smokes to get through
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
I'm a reefer smoking man.
Wood Pipe Smoke Shop and Speakeasy is your source for cannabis community gear in southern Wisconsin. Owners Brian and Tammy Wood are located in Kendall, just outside of Madison, and they've got everything for the smoking enthusiast, including a full assortment of pipes, water pipes, hookahs, bubblers, one-hitters, and so much more. They're open noon to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday and can help you with your detoxification therapies as well. Call 608-466-7473 or email woodpipes@yahoo.com for more information. That's 608-466-7473 or email woodpipes@yahoo.com. And as always, go pack go.
Support the Russ Belville Show. Text the word Russ to 420-420 and connect with the National Cannabis Coalition. You can also send $10 to the Russ Belville Show right from your smartphone. That's Russ to 420-420. You're listening to Radical Russ on the Russ Belville Show.
.420 Radio, your ticket to Seattle Hemp Fest.
Hi, I'm cannabis.
I'm alcohol.
Do you know that I can be used to treat a number of physical and psychological conditions like depression, Huntington's disease, and osteosclerosis?
Your mother's an osteoporosis.
I can also be used to help those who are abusing our friend over here.
You know what the problem is with you? You think you're better than everybody else. Hey, look at me, I'm weed.
Okay, I actually do prefer to be called cannabis. I'm illegal.
I'm illegal, because weed makes you stupid.
Welcome back, everyone. That's Smokin' Sunshine with Mush in the Room. Interesting play on words. And welcome to Toker Talk Radio. As you can see from our web screen here, got some video of one of our best friends. It's Brave Mykayla. Yes, the little girl on the left.
Yeah.
With all that hair.
You barely even recognize her.
Is Brave Mykayla.
All the hair.
And she was on, this was the Tri-Cities, which is Tri-Cities watching Pasco, Kennewick, and there's a third one. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. This is, we're just going to play the video, so enjoy a little Brave Mykayla.
Using medical marijuana to alleviate symptoms of an illness is common among adults, but it remains a controversial subject when it comes to treating kids with cannabis. Mike Linden spoke with one of the youngest registered medical marijuana patients in Oregon. She's a little girl in Pendleton who's been using medical pot for more than a year, and now her cancer is in remission.
There's lots of uses for cannabis. It can help you eat, it can help you sleep, and it can cure all the sicknesses, and it also helps you feel like a normal person.
Just after her 7th birthday, Mykayla Comstock was diagnosed with intermediate-risk T-cell acute lymphoblastic leukemia, a rare and aggressive blood and bone cancer.
Thought it was just a typical child illness such as pneumonia. It was an extended cough with fevers. I never ever dreamed it could be cancer. I was completely shocked and heartbroken when we found out it was cancer. Definitely not what I expected at all.
After 10 days of doctor-recommended chemotherapy, Mykayla's parents signed her up for a medical marijuana permit at a clinic in Portland. She started cannabis oil treatment right away to fantastic results in only 24 hours.
Yummy!
She was kind of in a dark place before the oil. She was very sick, nauseous, and pain. She was very pale. She didn't want to get up. She didn't want to eat. She didn't want to do anything but lay there and just kind of talk with us. And when we gave her this oil, she kind of perked up and she's, I'm hungry, I want to eat.
So in Mykayla's weekly medication, that's about one of these full syringes of cannabis oil, which is about equal to about 1/4 pound of marijuana.
Mykayla doesn't vaporize or smoke marijuana. She takes about 2 to 3 grams of cannabis oil per day in either capsule form or in a number of edibles, even creams and oils. Her parents point to the alternative treatment as the reason why her cancer is now in remission.
The federal government classifies cannabis and says that it has no medicinal benefit at all. And I've seen medicinal benefit with my very own eyes.
It's not as bad as you once thought. It's not a bunch of hippies in the back room getting high. You know, we're treating patients, and at the same time, people are using it recreationally safely.
Mykayla's last day for chemotherapy is in November of this year, and her parents plan to slowly wean her off of the cannabis once chemotherapy is over. As far as any advice to other kids starting medical marijuana treatment?
Don't be afraid.
Why would you not want to be afraid?
Because it can really help you and it could cure them.
In Pendleton, Mike Linden, NBC Right Now.
That was fantastic. And hey, I want to thank Brandon Krenzler specifically for not shying away from mentioning that people are using it recreationally and it's not hurting anyone. Right? This is part, as we fight for medical marijuana, sometimes as I rant on this stuff, people think, oh, so we shouldn't fight for medical marijuana. Hell no, of course, fight for medical marijuana. Hell, if you're in Tennessee or Utah or, freaking North Dakota, fight for medical marijuana. Of course, you got to fight for any reform that you can get. It's how you fight for it, right? It's not we're patients, not criminals. It's we're helping patients, right? There's no need to castigate the other side. And that was right, because I was getting my hackles raised just a little bit when he said, well, this isn't hippies in the back room getting high. But then he followed it up with, but it's not hurting anything. It's, people are using it recreationally. It's not a problem, right? There's no need for us to have to hide from the fact that some people are using it recreationally. Not medical marijuana specifically, but just the fact that marijuana gets used recreationally, because there's now enough support, politically speaking. Even the people that don't, even that we don't have in some states majorities that think it should be legal, we do have majorities that think it shouldn't be criminally prosecuted. And we do have majorities of people who don't think it's a moral issue anymore. So these things are changing, and they are happening here for us. But you've got to fight for what you can get. You got to fight for what can be passed. You got to fight for what can be discussed. Politics is the art of the possible, right? You got to find out what can be done. And anytime I hear complaints about, well, this shoulda or this shoulda, well, then it doesn't matter if someone should have supported this or if someone should have given that. What matters is what will happen, what is happening, what did happen. Shouldas don't get us any closer to legalization. Unless it's to say, well, we should have done this differently and then go ahead and do it differently the next time, right? Learn from what happened the last time. Don't keep banging your head against the same wall. I say if you want to pass a statewide initiative, start with the money part. Find out what money will support and work from there. Now, once you find out what money can support, you can do a little bit negotiation, sure. You can find out how far you can push it, sure. But everybody puts the cart before the horse when they want to talk about what the language will be and then going out to find the money. The money. You got to have the money. And it should be that way. We should be able to just vote for it. We should be able to do volunteer. There's enough support for it. So many people spoke, but if only this many people would get this many signatures. If only, if this, if should. And it just doesn't happen. And I just, I think we're at a point now where we can't dally on this stuff. We can't let our momentum fade. This is why I was so gung-ho on, the next states have to do, there's at least one state has to be pushing legalization in 2014. And I'm glad it's two. I'm glad it's Alaska and Oregon that are pushing this for 2014. Because, there's that worry of, these states are going, let's wait and see what happens. Let's wait and see what happens. I'm getting less and less afraid of that, though, because I think as we see what happens, everything that's happening so far is pretty damn good. I can tell you a lot of state legislatures went, I'm sorry, what, $2 million a month? $2 million a month? What? I'm sorry, did they say $2 million a month? Yeah, it's going to start to look a little more attractive.
And it already has. And then plus, we still have yet to delve into the figures of what they were spending on prosecuting and incarcerating all of these pot prisoners back 2 years ago, and what's happened to it over the last 2 years.
That's the only estimate that I think isn't going to be as good as we think it is, right?
Well, it may not be as good as we thought it was going to be, but it's going to be significant.
Oh yeah,
it'll be another eye opener.
Yes, I agree. I think we when Myron and all these guys do their estimates and they're calculating, how much time do we pay cops? The time that we pay cops isn't going to change. Just if they're not busting potheads anymore, they're going to sit in their squad car and eat donuts. But whatever, they're still going to get paid for an 8-hour day, right? Now, could we get by with fewer cops? Sure. But have we got that past the police unions?
But it's not just the cops. It's not just the cops. It's the prosecutors.
Sure.
It's the judges. It's gathering the public servant jury. It's...
Sure. Yeah, those costs will go down.
Yeah.
Sure. Prosecutors still work the same number of hours a day.
Yeah.
You just won't be prosecuting those cases, but the money for, I don't know, photocopying those cases or whatever, that's going to go away, sure.
Yeah.
But these tax revenue numbers are fantastic. And the other part that I love about these tax revenue numbers, and when we come back from break, I'm going to go to break early here so that in our next segment I can go long on this.
You get time.
Because, the Sabat conjecture? The Sabat conjecture that says, alcohol and tobacco only bring in 10%. For every $1 we bring in alcohol and tobacco taxes, we have $10 in social costs. Well, now we've got another variable to plug into the Sabat conjecture that makes him look like more of an ass than he already is. Stick around.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Georgia.
Hi, this is Willie Nelson, and I need your help. Alcohol prohibition didn't work in the 20s, and marijuana prohibition isn't working today. It's time we stop arresting law-abiding citizens because they prefer marijuana over alcohol. Nearly 2,000 Americans are arrested every day on marijuana charges. We're unfairly destroying the lives and careers of hundreds of thousands of people each year simply because they smoke marijuana. These are not criminals. They're average citizens like you, good neighbors who work hard, raise families, pay taxes, and contribute to their communities. We need your help to end marijuana prohibition once and for all. It's the fair thing to do.
For more information, contact NORML, the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws.
Call toll-free 888-67-NORML or visit their website at norml.org.
Cannabis Cure TV, starring Greg DeHote from Sussex, England. Fridays at 11 a.m. Pacific on 420radio.org.
New Approach Oregon is a coalition of Oregon citizens who believe that treating marijuana use as a crime has failed, costing taxpayers millions in law enforcement resources. We believe it's time for a new approach on marijuana, and that Oregonians deserve a chance to decide in the 2014 general election. Our approach will regulate, tax, and legalize marijuana for adults in Oregon. By implementing a strict system to regulate, tax, and legalize marijuana, we can move Oregon forward and create new revenue for critical services. Under our approach for 2014, 40% of funds would support K-12 education, 20% would support mental health and treatment services, and 15% would be dedicated to law enforcement. Public opinion, coupled with victories in Washington and Colorado, confirms marijuana legalization is inevitable. Visit our website at newapproachoregon.com or our page on Facebook at New Approach Oregon. Thank you.
Yeah, M-Dash. Really, you a fool for this one? Like goddamn fool, nigga. This is what we do, man. Like that shit, hit that shit, It's that bang life, man. That bang living, man. That bang story, 707 Golden Gate. If I ain't got weed, I know my nigga do. You probably heard I smoke a lot.
Welcome back, everybody. Toker Talk Radio. This is how we eat with Weed Man, and we are back. And yes, just heard from my chat room that Kevin Sabet and Project Sam have released a statement on the marijuana tax revenue, the 2.1 million in recreational revenue, and their complaint about it is: first month of marijuana tax revenue in Colorado falls well short of expectations.
Whose expectations?
So I guess the problem was it didn't bring in enough tax money for their liking. But they say it appears that Colorado is falling well short of the state's revenue projection from marijuana sales. Instead, the number from January is less than 2 million. No, it's actually 2.1 million. Far below estimates claimed by both the governor and legalization advocates. All right, so I looked shit up. So I went and looked it up. And this was the 2013, April 24th, 2013 fiscal impact of Amendment 64 on state revenues. Now, this was after it passed. After it passed, they had estimated that the retail marijuana market would be $605.7 million, and taxation would bring in $130 million in state tax revenue for the fiscal year. $130 million, rough thumbnail estimate would be what? $10,750,000 a month, something like that. And so they're saying that this is far too low. We're only getting 2 million. It should have been 10 million, right? But here's where they hoist themselves into ridiculousness. He doubles down on the Sabbath conjecture. Of course, just like alcohol and tobacco revenue, we know that the sales of this intoxicant will bring in far less than the cost of its use. In fact, every $1 in alcohol and tobacco revenues the state gains comes at a price of $10 lost in social costs. Okay, so now we have a number to plug in to that variable. He is saying intoxicant revenue equals 1/10 intoxicant cost. Or you could say intoxicant cost is 10 times intoxicant revenue. And now we know what intoxicant revenue is. And again, I'm using his word intoxicant. Of course, marijuana's not an intoxicant. But anyway, we know what the revenue is for marijuana, $2.1 million. So, times 10, that's $21 million in social costs. So, Kevin, you need to justify that in the month of January, there was $21 million in social costs. Now, he says, already legalization in Colorado has been characterized by children visiting hospital emergency rooms for marijuana poisonings from pot cookies, increased marijuana use in schools, and a 40% increase in workplace and school drug tests, according to Conspire, an independent testing company. You have to convince us that that is $21 million in social cost. Hell, try and convince me it's $2.1 million in social cost. And furthermore, these revenue projections for Amendment 64 are in the next fiscal year, right? And these are again, I want to try to find the, let's go to Ballotpedia like I did earlier today, Ballotpedia, and we will take a look at Amendment 64, see if we can find a impact statement, a cost revenue kind of thing. Amendment 64 from 2012 was revenue-related background arguments, analysis and studies. And there we go. Let's see. Analysis and studies. The Colorado Center on Law and Policy Analysis said it would generate $24 million in excise tax revenue. $24 million a year divided by 12. Why, that's $2 million a month, isn't it? Just exactly what they have pulled in here. This was the Colorado Center on Law and Policy Analysis. This was before Amendment 64. Okay, so there we go. Once again, Project Sam trying their hardest.
Grasping at straws without doing what, Russ? The research.
Gotta look it up, dudes. This one was too easy to debunk. I was able to do this one live.
Yeah, it took less than 2 minutes.
Live with a couple of clicks on Ballotpedia.
Oy.
24 million it would generate, and there you go.
The ice under you guys is wearing a bit thin.
Let's see if we can find anything else in here. Well, I happen to be... Yeah, $12 million in savings in criminal justice costs, $24 million in excise tax revenue, $8.7 million in sales tax revenue, $14.5 in local tax revenue. Okay, so now maybe he's got something here, because now we're talking 24 plus about 9 is 33, plus about 14 is 33, 43, 47, 48 million. That would be $4 million a month in taxes. Okay, so we're short. So we're 2.1 million. Should be 4 million in taxes. Now, what could have stopped that? Could it be that a lot of these pot shops that were open in January were limiting their inventory and sales? We reported on that quite a bit because they had to bring over just some of their medical inventory, and they couldn't bring it all over. And they're limiting people. You can only buy, an eighth. You can only buy an eighth. Even if you're a resident, you can only buy an eighth.
Yep.
So perhaps not as much tax revenue came in the month of January as we'd expect. And how many of these shops didn't open that were expected to be open?
Now, come tourist season in the summertime,
what's really going to be nice.
It's going to be very interesting to see those numbers, because then they'll have had their first grow raked in.
Mm-hmm. By 420, the first recreational grows will have already been harvested and will be for sale.
So it'll be like a big harvest party on the cup.
And by June, we'll have the sales tax data from April. Come back to me then, Sam, and let's take a look at what the tax revenues are in April in Colorado for legalized marijuana.
They're going to need 2 months after April to count it all.
And of course, everything he's complaining about here doesn't include the medical marijuana that also made more tax money for the state. And also doesn't include the money that is being saved by, again, not prosecuting people at this point. So, sorry, Sam.
Well, actually, it does a little bit. 12 million criminal.
Well, in their analysis, right. But that's it, folks. That's all the time I got for today. Stay tuned. Next, we've got the Weed Nerd, and he's got an episode of The Hunters of Dank, episode 13. Check that out coming up. Then you'll get these 2 hours replayed for you at 6 and 7. And then coming up at 8 o'clock live, Thrasher Sports Wire with me and Herb Thrasher. We're just hanging out, talking sports, and smoking our new bong. All right, that's all the time we got for today. Come back tomorrow for another episode. On tomorrow's show, we got 2 different guests. We've got Tom Evanstad, who's suing the government. We're going to talk about his lawsuit. And then we've got a strain review. Oh, a new segment, strain review with Brightside PDX. Calico Castile will be making it into Rolla J. And we're going to play Stump the Brian. Stump the Nose. For Brian the Red, I'm Radical West. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, take care of each other, Tokers!
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed. you plant it.